What if we told you the calmest, kindest faces on a repair shop were hiding stories that would leave you speechless? Suzie Fletcher, the soft-spoken saddle expert with a heart of gold, and her brother Steve, the quiet master of time itself, have kept their personal lives tucked safely out of the spotlight until now. But in a moment that shocked fans, the siblings finally opened up, and what they revealed was nothing short of heartbreaking. Behind the gentle restorations and warm smiles are years of trauma, loss, and battles no one saw coming. And what's more, there are still untold secrets they've only recently begun to share. This isn't just about fixing broken items. It's about how two people rebuilt themselves. Stay with us, because once you hear what they've been through, you'll never see the repair shop the same way again. In the heart of Oxfordshire, Suzie and Steve Fletcher grew up in a household that, at first glance, seemed steeped in creativity and craftsmanship. Their father, a dedicated watchmaker, and their mother, a talented clothes designer, instilled in a profound appreciation for meticulous work and artistic expression. The siblings were encouraged to explore their interests freely, leading Steve to the intricate world of horology and Suzie to develop a passion for horses and leatherwork. However, beneath this nurturing environment lay a period of profound difficulty. When Suzie was very young, their mother suffered from severe postnatal depression. This challenging time led to a nervous breakdown for their father, disrupting the family's stability. As a result, Suzie and Steve spent significant periods with their grandparents and various babysitters, creating a sense of instability during their formative years. Reflecting on this period, Steve shared, "We did have our problems like most families do, but we got through them. It didn't really have a huge impact on us." Suzie added, "I do remember going to Grandma and Grandpa's. It's only become apparent later on in life what the difficulties actually were." Despite these early challenges, the siblings found solace in their shared interests and the supportive bond they developed. Their father's dedication to his craft and their mother's creative spirit served as both inspiration and a foundation for their future careers. Suzie recalled, "With the influence of my mother, who was very skilled in designing and making clothes, and my father being a watchmaker, it's no surprise I found a way to combine my interest in design and horses to become a saddle maker." This blend of personal passion and familial influence set the stage for their eventual collaboration on the repair shop, where their skills and shared history would resonate with audiences worldwide. While Suzie Fletcher may now be known for her calm presence and steady hands on the repair shop, her journey to that workshop was anything but smooth. Long before the cameras rolled and audiences admired her skill, Suzie was fighting a private battle that few knew about, and fewer could have imagined. In her mid-30s, Suzie made a bold decision. She packed up her life in England and moved to Colorado. It was a new beginning, filled with possibility. There, in the American West, she found love. Rob was charming, charismatic, and seemed to understand her. Their relationship moved quickly, and before long, they were married. For a while, everything looked perfect. But behind closed doors, the cracks were already starting to show. Rob carried his own unresolved traumas, scars from childhood that had never fully healed. At first, those wounds showed up in subtle ways. Mood swings, controlling behavior, bursts of anger that came without warning. But over time, things escalated. The man Suzie had fallen in love with seemed to vanish, replaced by someone darker and unpredictable. He began drinking heavily, and his behavior became emotionally volatile and eventually physically threatening. Suzie found herself walking on eggshells, constantly calculating what version of her husband she might face when he came home. One terrifying night, during an argument that spiraled out of control, Rob put his hands around her neck. In that moment, Suzie thought her life might end. It wasn't just fear she felt. It was heartbreak, disbelief, and a deep, soul-wrenching pain. This wasn't the life she had imagined. This wasn't love. Still, she stayed. Like many survivors, Suzie hoped things would change. She told herself it was just the alcohol, that he was hurting, that if she tried harder, he might return to the man he once was. But the abuse continued, sometimes in ways that left no bruises, just invisible damage. For years, she hid the truth, even from her family. She carried the weight of it alone. Everything shifted when Rob was diagnosed with terminal cancer. The illness forced a strange kind of clarity into their lives. He began to open up about his own pain, even expressing regret for the ways he had treated her. In one of their final conversations, he made a request that would change the course of Suzie's life. He asked her to go home, to be with her family, to start over after his passing. Suzie returned to England, not just grieving, but determined to reclaim her life. It wasn't easy. The trauma lingered, and adjusting to life after such a long, abusive relationship took time. But slowly, with the support of her family, especially her brother Steve, Suzie began to rebuild. She didn't just return home. She returned to herself. That quiet strength you see on the show, it's hard-won. It's the result of years of surviving in silence, then finally choosing peace. And while viewers see a kind, composed expert working on leather saddles, few realize the real story, the one written not in craftsmanship but in courage. But Suzie's story was far from over. Her next chapter will begin in the most unexpected place. When Suzie Fletcher returned to England, it wasn't just about moving back home. It was about starting over after years of emotional turmoil. Grieving the loss of her husband was one layer of pain, but even more complex was healing from the long-term damage left by their relationship. She had spent nearly 15 years with a man who, while terminally ill by the end, had deeply wounded her emotionally and physically. So returning wasn't just a relocation. It was an act of survival. And yet, even in death, Rob had left her with a gift: permission to rebuild. In one of his last moments of clarity, he told Suzie to go back to England. Go be with your family, he said. Find peace. For all the ways it failed her, this one act of self-awareness gave her the push she needed to walk into a new life. Back in the UK, Suzie was quiet about what she'd been through. Not many people knew the full story, and she wasn't ready to talk. She kept to herself, slowly reintegrating into her old surroundings. Her brother Steve, already well into his career as a horologist, welcomed her with open arms. The two had always been close, bonded not just by blood, but by shared childhood trials. Now, as adults, they leaned on each other in a whole new way. It was Steve who encouraged Suzie to consider joining the repair shop. At the time, the show was still relatively unknown. It focused on skilled craftspeople bringing sentimental items back to life, and Steve thought it would be a good fit for Suzie's talents. What he didn't realize was how much that workshop would end up repairing Suzie herself. At first, she was hesitant. After everything she'd endured, putting herself in front of camera felt like the last thing she wanted to do. But Steve gently pushed. He knew that her quiet strength and attention to detail weren't just television material. They were exactly the kind of energy the show needed. So she said yes. And something incredible happened. In that unassuming barn, surrounded by antique trinkets and strangers with emotional stories of their own, Suzie found her rhythm again. The smell of leather, the feel of worn saddles, the process of breathing new life into old objects. It gave her purpose. More than that, it reminded her that broken things aren't worthless. With care and time, they can be made whole again. What viewers saw was a skilled leatherworker with a calm demeanor. What they didn't see was a woman rediscovering her voice through every restoration. Every buckle mended, every seam repaired. It was all symbolic. Piece by piece, she was stitching herself back together. And as the repair shop began gaining popularity, so did Suzie. But with the spotlight came a new wave of emotion, because being on the show meant confronting not just other people's stories, but her own. And when the cameras rolled, sometimes her past came flooding back. By the time the repair shop found its audience, Suzie Fletcher had quietly become one of the show's most beloved figures. Calm, composed, and endlessly skilled, she had a natural ability to restore not just objects, but memories. Viewers connected with her warmth and grace. But what they didn't always see was the emotional toll that some of those restorations took on her. Because for Suzie, the workshop wasn't just a workplace. It was a mirror, constantly reflecting back pieces of her past. There were certain stories that hit too close to home. Sometimes it was the widow who brought in an item once owned by her late husband. Other times, it was someone speaking about survival or the power of forgiveness. Suzie always listened with empathy, but inside, she was often battling a storm. She would never make the show about herself, but behind that serene presence were moments where she had to quietly step away and compose herself. One such moment came during the restoration of a cherished family heirloom, a military item belonging to a late husband. As the owner spoke about their partner's final days, Suzie's hands kept working, but her eyes began to well up. She wasn't just hearing the story. She was feeling it. Every word brought her back to her own grief, to her own bedside goodbye. The cameras didn't linger, and the final edit was graceful. But off camera, Suzie needed a moment to breathe. That was a reality of the show most people didn't see. How the act of repairing could be just as emotionally raw for the craftsperson as it was for the guest. And for Suzie, whose life had been reshaped by loss and trauma, certain repairs were almost too personal. They weren't just about leather or stitching. They were about memory and healing, and sometimes reopening old wounds. Still, she never turned away. If anything, those stories deepened her commitment to the work. She understood what it meant to hold on to something after someone is gone. She knew what it was like to be shattered and to try, slowly, to put the pieces back together. That empathy was never forced. It came from lived experience. And it's what made Suzie stand out, even in a room full of experts. Steve noticed it too. As her brother, he could see the subtle changes, the way her posture shifted during certain repairs, the quiet look in her eyes when someone's pain echoed her own. He'd seen her come home from the worst years of her life. Now, he was watching her heal in real time, one repair at a time. The world saw a talented saddle maker, but behind the scenes, Suzie was on her own journey of emotional restoration, finding peace through the very same tools she used to help others. And while she rarely spoke about it openly, those closest to her knew. Every episode was a step forward. But just as things were finally settling, a new challenge came knocking. One that would test a bond between brother and sister like never before. While Suzie was quietly rebuilding herself in the spotlight, her brother Steve Fletcher was facing his own storm behind the scenes. Known on a repair shop for his impeccable skill and steady hands, Steve's journey hasn't been without its moments of strain, moments that fans rarely get to see. Steve has always been a protective older brother, the one who quietly holds the family together when things get tough. But even the strongest can reach a breaking point. For years, Steve balanced a growing workload, a demanding career, and the pressure of supporting Suzie as she navigated her own recovery. Add to that the natural stress of filming a hit TV show, and the weight started to pile up. The pressure wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. Steve had long carried the scars of their shared childhood struggles, along with the responsibility of being a role model to his younger sister. Behind his calm exterior was a man who felt the heavy burden of family expectations and his own perfectionism. As the show's popularity skyrocketed, Steve found himself juggling more than just the intricate restorations. Public attention grew, with fans eager to peek behind the scenes. While the spotlight was flattering, it also meant less privacy and more scrutiny. The pressure to maintain the image of the calm, skilled craftsman began to wear on him. On top of that, Steve faced challenges in his personal life that few knew about. Relationships tested by long hours, personal doubts about his career trajectory, and the constant pull of family responsibility created a perfect storm. For someone who prides himself on control and precision, the chaos was hard to handle. At one point, Steve admitted he was close to snapping. The combination of stress and unresolved emotional wounds from his childhood threatened to overwhelm him. But unlike some who might bottle it all up indefinitely, Steve chose to face it head-on. He sought support, quietly away from the cameras, and leaned heavily on his family, especially Suzie. This moment of vulnerability was a turning point. It reminded Steve that strength doesn't mean going it alone. His openness helped deepen the bond between him and Suzie, creating a foundation of mutual support they both desperately needed. They had survived their difficult past, and now, more than ever, they were determined to face their futures together. The experience also influenced how Steve approached his work on the repair shop. He became more intentional about pacing himself and setting boundaries, realizing that taking care of himself was just as important as taking care of the delicate items he restored. His dedication to craftsmanship remained unwavering, but now it came with a renewed sense of balance. For fans, Steve's story is a reminder that even the most composed people carry invisible battles. It also shows the power of reaching out and trusting those closest to you. Through this, the Fletcher siblings continue to inspire, not only through their incredible restorations, but through the very human ways they navigate pain and healing. But just as Steve found a bit of calm, the siblings were about to face a new chapter that would challenge everything they'd rebuilt. For years, Suzie and Steve Fletcher had quietly carried their past while bringing treasured family heirlooms back to life on the repair shop. Their talents and gentle presence made them fan favorites, but it wasn't until recently that they chose to open up about the struggles they'd long kept private, and the reaction stunned viewers. It all started during an interview when Suzie, known for her calm and composed on-screen demeanor, shared a side of her story no one expected. She revealed the truth about her painful past, from the dark years in Colorado with her late husband to the emotional abuse she endured. The confession was raw and heartfelt, a glimpse behind the curtain that instantly changed how fans saw her, not just as a craftsman, but as a survivor. What made Suzie's revelation so powerful was the way she told it, without blame, without bitterness, and with a surprising sense of hope. She spoke about resilience, about how the pain shaped her but didn't define her. Viewers responded with an outpouring of support, praising her bravery and the quiet strength that shone through her words. But it wasn't just Suzie's story that caught attention. Steve also stepped forward to talk about his own struggles with family trauma, stress, and mental health. For the first time, the brother-sister duo showed a vulnerable side that contrasted sharply with the calm professionalism fans saw on screen. Their openness sparked important conversations about healing and mental wellness, especially within creative and high-pressure careers. The timing of their confessions was significant. The Fletcher siblings didn't just share these stories to clear the air. They wanted to help others who might be struggling in silence. By speaking openly, they broke the stigma around emotional pain and reminded viewers that even people who seem put together can be fighting battles nobody sees. Social media exploded with messages of encouragement. Fans shared their own experiences, thanking Suzie and Steve for inspiring them to speak out or seek help. The duo's honesty also brought new layers of depth to the repair shop, turning it from a simple restoration show into a story about healing, hope, and the human spirit. Yet, this newfound openness wasn't without challenges. Suddenly, the Fletchers had to navigate public curiosity about deeply personal matters while maintaining the warmth and professionalism that made the show so beloved. There were moments of discomfort and vulnerability, but also moments of connection that made everything worthwhile. The confessions also sparked renewed interest in the show, drawing in viewers eager to see the sibling stories unfold alongside the objects they restore. It was a reminder that sometimes the most compelling stories aren't just about what's being fixed. They're about the people doing the fixing and the strength it takes to keep going. As Suzie and Steve continue to share their journeys, fans remain captivated, not just by their craft, but by the courage it takes to finally open up. The Fletchers have shown that true repair goes beyond leather and wood. It's about mending hearts and minds too. But the story doesn't end here. There's more behind their journey that fans have yet to discover. Even though Suzie and Steve Fletcher have become household names to the repair shop, there's a lot about their lives that remains hidden beneath the surface. Untold stories that fans haven't yet heard, but which shaped who they are today. Behind the gentle smiles and steady hands lies a history of struggles, sacrifices, and silent battles that only a few close friends and family have witnessed. For example, few know just how much Suzie's love for horses and saddlery was a lifeline during her darkest days. It wasn't just a job or a hobby. It was her refuge, working with leather, crafting saddles that would carry people through life's journeys, gave her a sense of control and peace when everything else felt out of reach. Steve's dedication to clock restoration is also more than a profession. It's a way to impose order on a world that sometimes felt chaotic. The precision needed to repair delicate timepieces became a metaphor for his own desire to fix broken moments from the past. His work requires patience and calm, qualities he cultivated to navigate not just the mechanics of clocks, but the emotional gears turning inside him. Another lesser-known fact is how both siblings have quietly supported charitable causes related to mental health and abuse survivors. Without fanfare, they have donated time and resources to organizations working to help those who experience trauma. Their personal experiences fuel their desire to give back, though they prefer to keep this work private. There are also stories about the toll their careers have taken behind the scenes. The long hours, the physical strain of delicate restorations, and the emotional weight of hearing countless heartbreaking stories from clients add up. Neither Suzie nor Steve talks openly about the exhaustion they sometimes face, mental and physical, but it's very real. The demands of the show and their crafts require more resilience than fans might guess. Perhaps most surprising is how close they remain as siblings. Despite the pressures of fame and past hardships, their relationship is their rock. They have a unique, unspoken understanding born from shared history, and they often lean on each other in quiet moments away from the cameras. Their bond goes beyond the workbench. It's a deep connection forged through years of protecting and supporting one another. These untold stories add layers to what fans see on screen. Suzie and Steve aren't just craftspeople restoring objects. They're people who weathered storms, healed wounds, and found strength in their art and in each other. This complexity is part of what makes them so compelling to watch. As their story continues to unfold, it's clear there's much more beneath the surface. For fans eager to know the full picture, the Fletchers have promised more openness and honesty in the future, hinting that some chapters have yet to be revealed. For now, viewers can appreciate not just the beautiful restorations, but the resilience and humanity behind them, reminding us all that sometimes the most powerful repairs happen in the heart. When viewers think of the repair shop, many picture the quiet warmth of Suzie and Steve Fletcher, two skilled artisans who bring history back to life, one piece at a time. But their legacy goes far beyond the objects they've restored. What they're truly leaving behind is something deeper, a message about resilience, family, and the quiet power of healing. For Suzie, each stitch in a worn saddle or strap is more than a repair. It's a symbol of survival. Her journey from an abusive marriage in the U.S. back to the English countryside wasn't just about returning home. It was about reclaiming her voice. Through her craft, she's rewritten her story, not as a victim, but as a strong, capable woman who turned pain into purpose. She never intended to become a public figure. In fact, she initially joined the repair shop at Steve's suggestion, thinking it would be a quiet gig behind the scenes. But something about her presence resonated. Her calm voice, steady hands, and quiet empathy turned her into an unexpected icon for strength. And now, years later, she's using that platform to show others, especially women who've endured trauma, that recovery is possible, that beauty and strength can be found on the other side of pain. Steve's legacy is just as impactful. With his gentle demeanor and meticulous attention to detail, he's shown millions what it means to care deeply, not just about the work, but about the people behind it. He's not just fixing clocks. He's preserving time, memory, and meaning. Every tick of a repaired timepiece is another moment restored for a grieving family, another echo of someone they've lost. But Steve's true impact lies in something even quieter, his ability to be emotionally available, not just a guest on the show, but to his sister. His steadfast support for Suzie, both on and off screen, is a testament to the kind of brother and man he is. It's a legacy of loyalty, one that fans have watched unfold with admiration. Together, the Fletchers have redefined what television can be. In a world obsessed with speed and spectacle, they've helped build a show rooted in care, patience, and emotion. The repair shop isn't just about fixing things. It's about reminding us that stories matter, that the things we hold dear often carry more than sentimental value. They carry legacy, loss, and love. And it's this emotional honesty that will stick with viewers long after the episodes end. Suzie and Steve didn't set out to become inspirations, but by simply being themselves, quietly strong, deeply human, they've left a mark on audiences that no restoration could ever fully capture. As the series continues and new stories unfold, one thing is clear. The Fletchers' work will endure, not just in the items they've saved, but in the lives they've touched. Their legacy isn't just in the repairs. It's in the reminders they leave behind, that broken doesn't mean ruined, and healing is always possible. Suzie and Steve Fletcher have shown us that restoration isn't just about antiques. Sometimes it's about people. Their journey from silence to strength is a reminder that even the most broken things can be made whole again. If this story moved you or gave you a new appreciation for the quiet strength behind the repair shop, Don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps more people find stories like this. And if you want Morel, subscribe and turn on notifications, because there's so much more to uncover. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.